Hola amigos, ¿cómo están? Welcome to another episode of TECH23 where we're interviewing Latinos in tech. Today we're celebrating the flag of Argentina. Our guest is Alex Gras, and you are from?
Argentina.
Awesome. Which part specifically?
De Salta, from the north.
Awesome. Okay. So this podcast is about Latinos in tech. So let's start off right away. The tech industry is huge. You can do a million different jobs in it. What is your job in tech?
So that's a good question because I've jumped around.
Okay.
So maybe next month it might be something different. But no, right now I'm in venture capital. I'm what's referred to as an associate in venture capital.
Okay.
So someone that works for the partners in terms of doing all the diligence on deals, sourcing, and supporting the whole process of investing in startups.
I'm going to ask credit because we ask people this. Do you know how to code?
No, I absolutely do not. Y para todos mis latinos les quiero explicar esto bien claro, que no hace falta. You do not need to code to be in tech. In fact, I got it was very romantic. I got a C+ and C++ in college.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was very poetic. I remember taking that class, doing so terribly, and thinking I shouldn't be an engineer. Like I don't know how to do this. Like this is I can't be an engineer because at the time I thought, okay, to be an engineer you have to speak this language, right? And I remember talking to my parents and my advisor at the time, and I was like, one, this is going to kill my GPA, and I have becas, I have scholarships to maintain, and two, I was like, maybe I need to change career, change my path. And my advisor was like, absolutely not. Finish it, change, because C++ and any language really is just a tool, right? It's just something that's used. And these days, there's so many people that are so amazing at it that need support in other ways, right? And engineering is such a broad field. Tech is such a broad field that you can support the people that are the coders in as a marketer, as a salesperson.
100%. Y creo que ese es el problema, ¿verdad? Like en la industria ahorita, todos piensan, well, I don't know how to code, so I'm not even going to try. But like you just said, those people are very good at their job, but they need these other things for the whole tech industry to move forward. ¿Tú te dices que yo soy un VC o trabajo por una compañía de VC?
I don't know if I...
¿Cómo dices a tus papás?
Trabajo en VC. Trabajo en un fondo, diría. En un fondo, porque and this is a good point because a shout out to this book, The Power Law. It's about a history of venture capital, and actually, venture capital started as adventure capital because it was an investment in adventurous new technology, and then it got shortened down to venture capital, and so a lot of Latinos don't really realize what venture capital is. In Argentina, you can't even get a mortgage, much less what is venture capital, right? And so when I tell my parents, I have to explain to it, it's like a hedge fund, but you invest in startups, right? Or you're a middleman where you get a lot of rich people to give you money, to trust you to invest in early stage entrepreneurs and startups with the intent that you will be able to get returns that outpace anything you would make in the stock market.
Y luego si quebramos la palabra venture capitalist, well, the venture part is, right? You use different tech tools to allow you to find where should we venture out to, right? Hey, we did this, now we need your capital to invest in this. So can you tell us about some of the tech tools that you use on a daily basis? Obviously, you're not coding, but what you get to work, you open up your laptop, and what does that look like? But before we do that, ya nos trajeron el vino.
Bueno. Es importante esto. Salud.
Cheers para los Latinos in tech, que they don't code.
Para los Latinos en tech. Qué rico. So I work for Mercury Fund, which is a fund here in Houston, Texas. They're on Fund 5. They've been around for 18 years. So I can explain why Fund 5 versus 1, 2, 3, 4. And every fund has what they do better than the others, right? There's a differentiator. So at the end of the day, money's money, right? And so a venture fund needs something to differentiate them from another one that's providing money. Mercury is really focused on the individual. And not only that, what makes the individual unique. And sometimes that takes a lens of a diversity lens, or a diversity perspective, and they focus sometimes on Black and brown founders. Sometimes that takes a lens of a true, a coder, a super genius in the technical world, and sometimes that takes the lens of a great salesperson, a great orator, someone that can go out and really sell the vision of what they're doing. But in essence, it's a people business, right? And so all our tech tools are focused on management of people, right? And so what's everybody knows, or everybody's familiar typically with CRM, the customer relationship management tool. And there's tons out there that are very good. We won't name them until they're sponsors of this show. But so a lot of the focus is on, tracking the communication between people, between the fund and founders, with fund and other funds, right? The fund and other organizations that are feeding startups potentially to be invested, accelerators, incubators, things like that. And then beyond that, it's like your typical tools to make sure your technical side is rounded out, right? Like Microsoft Excel.
By any chance, because I just found this out and it was pretty crazy. Are you aware that there's an Esports team for Microsoft Excel?
No.
I fully read on it. It's called like the Financial Modeling World Cup. It's a real thing. They were recently this year for the first time on ESPN2, and you have 30 minutes to figure out like 3 or 4 different things. I hate Excel. I hated statistics and all those classes. So I was reading through the 4 things of like what you had to do. It went over my head. I don't even know.
No, a bunch of nerds.
Yeah, all this other stuff. But I was telling my wife about it, which she's also our producer on the other side of the camera.
Hey, shout out.
She was like if I was just telling you Messi scored like 16 goals, she got so excited, and I was just like, oh wow, there's actually a market then for this, because people like super nerdy are like actually getting excited about the test. Apparently it's a thing, and it's a growing like crazy, and I imagine it's like the person that because I had this whole scenario in my head. I was like, watch, there's probably a guy named like Greg that's like a badass at Excel, and like nobody really like looked to him in the office, and now they're like, oh my god, he made it to the World Cup.
It's Greg. That's awesome. Well, but that speaks to the power of how far technology is advanced, and the power of community, right? Because there are a bunch of nerds, weirdos, whatever. Truthfully, I love Excel. I could see myself, maybe not yelling the goals quite as loud, but maybe getting excited about when someone plugs in a formula that works just perfect.
That's exactly what she said.
I mean, it's oh, dude, when you get that feeling, it's indescribable.
Like, I want to see the wave in an office because they're like, he just did it. I don't know.
Everybody's standing behind him, or her, right? Yeah. But like the fact that there's a ton of people out there that before everyone would consider these quiet nerds, but that can build community through these communication platforms, right? And so maybe you're watching this on YouTube, right? Or some other platform, or on Twitch that was created.
It was on Twitch. Yeah. So these people play on Twitch, right?
Yeah. And so then you're communicating with other people that are like-minded, right? And I think that's what's so critical. And I know this is kind of what you're doing now with this podcast. Is it's so critical about Latinos in tech, is that there's an understanding that there is a community of Latinos out there that are in innovation and tech, and it's okay to not be this coder, but get excited about about innovation, about Excel World Cups. About
now, I'm curious. I'm playing this whole scenario in my head. I wonder if the European League is different than the Latino League. If the Latino League is like, oh, those are the loud Excel people. Like, they're creative. Yeah, they're the most creative. Their formulas have all this like I don't even know what the terms are for that. But I'm curious now what people awesome at Excel in Latin America versus like in Europe or Asia.
Oh, I guarantee they're the loudest fans. Yeah, if there's a stadium, they're the loudest.
It's like I don't know what's going on, pero viva México.
Vámonos, muchacho, vamos.
Separate from like TECH23, my wife and I actually lead a group of married entrepreneurial couples. So we talk about like the challenges of being married in general, but what if like both of you guys are in business together? There's some added challenges to that. So estamos pensando un nombre like for this marriage group, right? And then we're like, okay, well, business folk and everything like that. So we ended up in bedrooms and boardrooms.
Oh, nice.
That's we have a group. Shout out to our bedrooms and boardrooms group that will be watching this. Los que entienden español. Pero también later on we like thought about more names, and then it's like between the spreadsheets, that was another one. So
those are great. Yeah.
So if anybody wants to start another marriage group,
that's what keeps the entrepreneurial marriage spicy.
You're just like, hey, I'm curious about that.
There's a rabbit hole to go down in terms of entrepreneurship and marriages that like frankly we struggled with a lot. And so my parents. My dad from Mendoza, my mom's from that, but my dad actually moved here when he was very young, when he was 13, 14. And so he speaks like we speak, but also speaks Spanish like an Argentine.
Ustedes tienen el che un poquito más que nosotros.
Yeah, maybe so. But my mom moved here when she got married, and she was an ENT, ear, nose, throat. But in the U.S., your license meant nothing, and so instead of redoing all the medical school stuff, she became my dad's office manager. The way I tell people is, my dad's a dentist, orthodontist. My mom actually makes the money because my dad is the nicest guy. Like, oh, you don't have anything to pay, it's okay, don't worry. And my mom will be like, no, vení acá. ¿Qué tenés? ¿Qué tenés? A ver. And so,
I feel like that's if it wasn't for her, we'd still be just like, no, but he needs it and this and that.
Yeah. So my dad was one of the first bilingual dentists in Houston. And so he had a lot of Spanish or Spanish speaking clientele, and so a lot of times we lived in the back of my dad's office for my first 2 years of life. Yeah.
No way.
So when I say I helped in the back office, I kind of just grabbed things and threw them down.
Hace mucho que acabas de decir eso. Estás chiquito, pequeño, estás atrás de la oficina de tu papá y tu mamá mientras ellos están trabajando. You're a Latino in tech today. Were you like playing with a bunch of tech back then, or?
No. Bueno, yes, we would. When I was younger, maybe when I was in my teenage years, we would do the insurance claims. We'd plug them into the system and stuff. So we had exposure. Like we were blessed enough to have exposure early on to computers and systems and whatnot. But really, what drove me to tech was the fact that I hated the medical profession. I like all my family are in the medical side. My sister, my cousins, my aunts, uncles, and I was just not a blood and guts kind of guy. I remember my grandfather was an anesthesiologist. We'd walk through the emergency room when I was very little, and you have people with burns and bones sticking out and all kinds of stuff. And like, all right, let's go get lunch. How can you eat? Like, this is disgusting. And so I knew that I didn't want to do that.
Did you ever faint in anything, or?
No, never that. And usually, like, honestly, when things like, I was a Boy Scout or whatever, like when there were situations that called for first aid that were gruesome, like something switched in me that was like, all right, let's just figure this out. But
I got myself like nauseated when I was doing first aid on myself.
No, yeah, I'm very close. I could be that. Well, thankfully, and probably for yourself as well. Like, you're a great salesperson. You're a great communicator. I really enjoyed math. And I enjoyed, we joked about Excel. I enjoyed when like you could put a bunch of things together and you had one solution and it worked, right? And you were like, this is it. Yeah.
Such a math guy.
Yeah.
Were you a mathlete in high school?
I did do the math competitions and stuff. I don't even remember what they were called, but no, I wasn't. I don't know if I was good enough, I guess. But I loved math, and so I went down the engineering path, and what I realized was that, like, while I loved math, what separated me from the other math geeks, like myself, was that I loved to talk. I loved to communicate with people. I loved to be around people. I wanted to hear people's stories. I wanted to, and maybe
I'll give you that. From the first time I met you, you were actually really interested. I'll be honest. I mean, I didn't know you were from Argentina. I heard Alex. Well, because I keep here they say Alex Gras. I'm just like, what the heck is Alex Gras? And then I think I said something about the first project we were having to do something with Latinos. And then you're like, yo soy de Argentina. And I was like, something about Latinos, our thing immediately shifts when we know another person is Latino. I'm super grateful for that, because I don't know if that happens to other cultures. Like, I don't know if other people are like, oh, you're black too, you're Asian, you're white.
This is ingrained in our culture 100%, and it's something that I try to, whenever I talk to Latinos that don't understand what innovation and tech means. You've been given a gift as a Latino, and especially in your culture, that it's so communicative, so expressive, and it's so caring, right? That you love your friends like they're your brothers and sisters, right? And very few other cultures do experience that. And I think you can. And so we talk about, okay, the medical profession, the blood and guts wasn't for me. Engineering, I liked math, that was for me, but I wasn't the best, right? Like there were people that were way smarter, way better at Excel. I would not have made the last rounds of the World Cup. Yeah, and so it was like, well, what differentiates me is my ability to maybe take the math and build and communicate a story that resonates with my community, right? And I don't think I'm unique in that. I think there's a lot of Latinos that are very good at that, and just haven't really tapped into that yet.
I agree. Yeah.
And I think what you're doing, what Michelle's doing, what other people are doing in the tech ecosystem is creating an opportunity for Latinos to feel that level of comfort that, hey, I see people that are like me succeeding in this space and engaging with the space, and then they get to realize, oh, actually, I could benefit a lot. I could provide a lot of value here.
Yeah, like I want somebody, like a young guy or girl, to say, oh, like that they relate with your story, everything you're sharing with us today, and be like, wait, he's in tech, I can do it too then. Like, él es también de acá. He's living right. He lived at one point in the back of like their parents' business. Like, I'm doing that, and I think everything's like super far away for me to achieve. But that means people have made it out. He talks like me. He sounds like me. He likes the same things as I do. Yeah. And I think that's very powerful. And that is the goal that we're trying to do with this podcast. Y por eso, like, the TECH23 is so important, because we're focusing not just on Mexicanos. Like, soy Mexicano, y pues that's the default. And there's a lot of people to choose from. But the goal is going to be to actually find somebody from all the Latin American flags and do this. Yeah. Learn their culture, everything, and see how can we inspire more Latinos that look like them specifically and do it.
I love that you talk about the level of comfort, because so another I guess checkpoint in my path was I started in Tenaris in the corporate world. I didn't consider myself an entrepreneur first. Actually, I thought I'm going to climb the corporate ladder. I'm not just going to do my thing. And then
Tenaris is the oil and gas company.
It's an oil and gas service company. It's Argentine-American. It's an Italian family that moved to Argentina, and so their headquarters are in Buenos Aires. But it was such a good first step, because I arrived, and to your point around having that level of comfort, being there was such a good marriage of like American corporate culture and Argentine social culture. And so like I felt like, okay, this feels like what I've been doing in college in terms of building out these models and doing all these things. But when I go eat lunch, people are eating milanesa and choripán y la pasta y no sé cuánto. And
did you ever judge their food? Like, be like,
no, come on. No, every Latino, I for 100% I believe this. Every Latino believes that their mom's cooking is the best in the world.
Facts. I will fight somebody that says that their food's better than my mom.
Exactly. Yeah. So you have to respect that, and you have to understand that no matter what my mom made me, because I think the first like 6 months I lived with my parents. Yeah. So I was going home and eating,
delicious, amazing food.
Exactly. Yeah. Taking to lunch my mom's cooking and my empanadas and all that.
Tupperware, like you had the whole set. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, so you've experienced this. Yeah. And so I really, really appreciated that, because one thing that I think, especially entering the entrepreneurial space, and as a Latino, but generally, anytime you're in a situation where you feel like you're not the like common, you're not normal, right, quote unquote. I think it's useful to have that experience of comfort, and so like something that I kind of make the analog of, like, if you're a woman going into a conference of 100 men or a man going into a conference of 100 women, like you spend so much mental bandwidth on, like, all right, am I in the right spot? Like, what's going on? Why am I the only one? Why is this different? Like, do I look okay? Like, you're so worried about everything, all the things that don't matter.
Yeah. Instead of like performing the work they hired you to do, which you were probably excellent at. But I agree, we focus too much time on like, should we actually be here? Yes, they already hired you. Like a group of, it wasn't on a whim, a group of people it's very skilled at their work, said you belong here, and pues yeah, that's it. Like just go
Right.
do your work.
And so that's what I think Latinos have to realize is that like you are worthy. You are there, and there are other Latinos that are out there.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Latinos are worthy.
Salud.
En español que vale.
Sí, no, la verdad que vale la pena y tenés la inteligencia, la cultura, la sabiduría, el corazón para poder hacerlo.
I love when you like speak Spanish. It's just porque, yo estoy impuesto a escuchar mexicanos hablar español y pues es puro güey y todo eso así. But I feel like I love our Mexico Spanish so much to the heart. But it's always interesting to hear other people's like cultures and how you guys talk. And I'm like, so at home you guys just like sound like this all day?
Well, you guys do really well that I don't know how to do is you change between Spanish and English very well.
Dude, okay, so we may save it for another time, but my wife and I actually talked about this. I was like, why is it? Because it's not everybody. You're meeting me. I was born in the United States. My parents are from Mexico. So till this day, I still speak Spanish pretty much entirely to my parents. And we speak it every day. So I never lost practice. And then growing up, I was in bilingual classes and eventually switched, I think, in third grade to all English. So I've always practiced. I'm fully 100% bilingual. My brain is able to go I can, in one sentence, switch back and forth 5 times if needed. Como ahorita si puedo hablar a sentence right here, I can actually do that.
That's incredible.
And I've met people from Mexico que nacieron en Mexico till like older, maybe 15, 16 years old. And then they move here and they can speak it, but they're like, wait, pause. I need to say this sentence in English and this sentence in Spanish.
That's me. I cannot. And it's amazing. And something you've told me when we first met each other was you were like, there's TECH23. Why is it the 23rd? It's the 23rd Latino. It's the Latino that was born in the U.S.
In the U.S. now.
In the U.S.
Yeah,
now.
not born yet.
Excuse me. But has the ability, regardless of where they were born, has the ability of switching English, Spanish, has a new dialect.
Yeah, and the new culture, yeah. Because, I'm sure you still have family in Argentina, right? Okay. Your culture and even the way that you are somebody from Argentina es un poquito diferente que ya ellos de allá. Y como mis primos ni se consideran honestamente latinos, because for them, they're mexicanos. They don't interact with Colombianos, Venezolanos, Argentinos on the daily. So, I'm picking up words in my vocabulary now, like berraco, como de Colombia. And yesterday we went to eat a Venezuelan restaurant, and now all those things influence me. But if you're only in your country, which is there's nothing bad about that, pues no. So we're a new breed of Latinos, and it's going to be very interesting to write this out and see what the end product of all this.
It's fascinating, and so there's an organization here in Houston called Casa Argentina.
Okay.
And my parents were big in it, and we've grown up in it, and it's so fascinating to see like I want my kids to be able to speak Spanish like Argentines. I know that I can only give them so much, and eventually they'll need to be immersed in it for a prolonged period of time to be able to really speak it. And so what Casa Argentina is trying to do, basically, what Casa Argentina is trying to do is it was created because there was enough of a community of Argentines here in Houston that wanted to maintain the Argentine culture for their kids. And so we have a big asado, we do tango, se baila el tango. Tonight is actually the end of year gala, where they kind of just like they really try to hammer home the beauty of the Argentine culture, but taking the best parts of it and implementing it into what we live in today in the U.S., right? Because I don't think...
Oh my God, ¿qué nos acaba de llegar ahorita?
Ah, bueno, qué rico.
Okay, ¿qué tenemos aquí?
Ok, bueno, esto es una típica parrilla argentina, ¿no? Tiene un poco de todo. En realidad, de la forma en que lo comemos nosotros es en partes. We eat this in kind of a sequence. Usually we start with empanadas and choripán, chorizo and pan. Then you have morcilla right here, which is like a blood sausage. Okay. My wife hates it. And then you got chinchulín, which is intestine.
Let me ask first. Yeah. Blood of what animal? Beef, pork?
Cow. Yeah. Of beef. And so, and it's coagulated a little bit. So, anyway, it's fantastic.
The Mexican, I forgot what it's called, but I think there's a Mexican dish that does that.
I love it, but not a lot of people do. So you got chinchulín, chorizo, acá. Esta la tira de asado, which are the ribs. Okay. So we're here in Texas. Typically, you think of ribs, you think of the long ribs, right? This is cut the other direction, okay. So it's a little flatter. And then you got pollo, But in Argentina, you eat chicken for lunch. You don't eat it for like the real asado. Y asado. Bueno, y el bife acá. Okay. Which is the actual meat.
Question. Yeah. Are you able to throw this down at your house? Like, can you make this?
I mean, if it was like, I could grill it for sure. I don't think I could I couldn't make the morcilla or the chorizo.
Ya nos sirvieron. Aquí está bonito el plato.
Sí, ¿no? Bastante de carne.
I think people are going to be curious about.
Yeah. Morcilla. Yeah. Typically, you might eat it with some bread, but I want you to try it just by itself and let me. Yeah. So we had this at our rehearsal dinner for our wedding. We did like a full asado. And yeah, my wife's grandmother was like absolutely disgusted.
Well, si no le dices que es sangre, it's like this is a very dark sausage.
It kind of has the texture of boudin.
Yes. Right? Yeah, like if you told me there's rice in here, I would believe you that there's mixed like sausage como carne molida con arroz. Mm-hmm. I would think that. Yeah. So there's no meat in that. It's all like coagulated blood. 100%.
The other big one you got to try is the chinchulín. Oh, yeah. Which like you
are these like little poppers or do I cut it or what?
However you want. I mean I guess you could eat them. Yeah. This is the small intestine.
The chasta limón, good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. These are carnitas. Mexicanos, el chinchulín son carnitas. Mm. So now what you need is that I know these are they cut them kind of long. Now we need to cut them en cuadritos más chiquitos con una salsita y una tortillita y con sal y limón.
This is the small intestine. They don't serve it as much anymore, but when we were kids, we would do the large intestine, and it had like little pockets. And so when you were grilling it, the juices inside it would boil up and it would fill the pockets. And as kids, this is a terrible game to play, but we would poke the pockets and the hot juice would come out to try to burn my cousins, and so we'd run around. Thankfully, there's no lasting burns anywhere, but that was a game we played.
So let's go back to Argentina and tech. Are there some big tech companies in Argentina that we might know about?
Yeah. And it's kind of ties in a little bit to what's going on with Argentina right now, and like companies like Tenaris, right? Tenaris has been around for decades. It's a manufacturing company, right? Manufactured pipe for oil and gas, and for a long time was like the company to work for in Argentina. And over the last 10, maybe 20 years, maybe 15 years, you're starting to see this huge influx of creation of tech companies in Argentina. So the ones that are most famous are Mercado Libre, which everybody, I think in Latino-America uses. Globant is a big one. They're kind of an IT service company that most famously made the Fast Pass for Disney. Yeah. But your string Ualá is a big fintech company. It's lesser known, to the consumer, but is a huge startup. And but to me, what it speaks to beyond the names and the brands is that there's this movement, this culture of Argentines moving towards tech as an opportunity to be able to, create something for themselves, but create something for the world, right? And I think a lot of the prior industry was all about how to capitalize on Argentina's natural resources like oil, lithium, things like that. And like I said, over the last 10 years, you start to see that returns. And it's not just happening in Argentina, right? It's across Latin America.
There's more focusing on the talent versus the resources. Exactly. Like una cosa que queremos que los latinos sepan es que some of the biggest tech companies in the world became that way because they solved a problem that many people had. So if the Latinos, now that we're a very large population in the United States, there's a pretty good chance that there are several problems out there that we all have that like other people don't have, but we're such a big group now that can we solve some of these problems through technology? And that's what we want to do with TECH23 is to tell people, yes, you can. Like, what is something? Like, I mean, we want people to start reflecting on their day and be like, man, this kind of sucks. Or like, this could be a lot easier. Or why haven't they thought about doing it this way? And if there's a way, like, can an app or some software or even some hardware like fix it? If there is, like, come talk to us. Like, we definitely want to connect you with the right people, porque no tienes que saber la parte de tecnología, like, pero cómo lo voy a hacer. No. Simplemente queremos saber, reconoces un problema que mucha gente tiene. Okay, then let's focus on that and build that. And then, pero no tengo dinero. No worries, because then that's where you come in, and you're like, we connect you with the funds to make this happen. Especially like you want to see more Latino products out there.
Right.
And we always talk about this, how like Latinos were huge consumers of technology, massive, on Spotify, on Netflix, on anything like this, but we're not big creators, at least not yet. So hopefully, through our conversations, que más, we have some Argentine tech creators and some Mexicano tech creators.
I think there's such an opportunity for Latinos that maybe aren't in tech today to engage with tech, because they're the ones that know what that culture looks like, right? They're the ones that see the problems better than anybody else.
What is your advice for somebody that wants to get into this industry, maybe on the financial and investing side?
No, mira. All right. So it's a good question, because I think the way I went about it is not the way most people go about it. I think most people will, if they're in the corporate world, will go get an MBA and then use the MBA to do the interview process and so on and so forth. So in my experience, like I said, I was an engineer in an oil and gas service company. I didn't really feel like I was an entrepreneur, but I knew that like I wanted to drive impact. I knew that I wanted to, and then of course at the time I didn't know what impact was, but I knew that I wanted to solve problems. And honestly, I didn't look at my family to solve those problems. And I wish I would have, because I think there's things that I would have seen in our own Latino culture that would have been very conducive to me being able to kind of drive that. But regardless, so I had a buddy, Lawson Gao, who had started the Canon, and it was close by actually. So like we're in Spring Branch, a very Hispanic community, and there's an incubator like right here, right? The Canon, which so at a tactical level, you just show up at the Canon, be like, I want to be an entrepreneur, and let's figure it out. But that exposed me to tons of entrepreneurs. And what I call entrepreneurs, like people like me that want to be entrepreneurs, but they come in different flavors. And predominantly, it's a stereotype, but it happens a lot, is like people have a lot of ideas and don't know how to execute them. Or don't have the capacity to, or just creatives, right? Like they don't think in an operational way of like, I need to do X, Y, Z to make sure that my vision comes to fruition. And so as an engineer, I was thinking, oh man, I'm not creative. I can never be an entrepreneur, a founder. Like I don't have the idea. What I realized was like, that didn't matter. Like I was the idea guy's best friend, right? Because the idea guy was like, I spinning their wheels trying to figure out what's going on. And I was like, you know what? I know exactly what you needed commercially, operationally, financially. And this is how we're going to structure it. And for you Excel geeks, this is how we're going to do it in Excel, and this is the formulas we're going to use. But I looked at problems in a very operational, tactical way that a lot of idea people didn't.
No, 100%. I mean, I know we've touched on marriage a couple times in this already, but that's a good advice for married couples as well, right? Like, because that's me. I'm the creative guy, and we've been able to do lots of different projects that people see like, oh, that looks cool. I know for a fact none of them would have got done if it was just me by myself.
Absolutely.
Like I needed Michelle and her like analytical, operationals like brain. That to me is like exhausting and like agonizing to have to do.
You're keying on something critical. And so your question was, how do you start, right? How do you get involved? If you're someone that wants to get into the entrepreneurial space, it's just like dating, right? It's just like getting married, right? Like you need to go date around. You need to figure out like what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, respect that about yourself, and find a partner. Find a partner that is able to maximize your strengths and show up your weaknesses, and you're able to do the same for them, just like in a marriage, right? And sometimes that's going to take a few relationships that are painful,
some breakups.
Exactly. But that's okay. I mean, like, I hadn't thought about it until now, but like I always talk about helping entrepreneurs is something that really means a lot to me, because I wanted to create an impact. And I like I mentioned before, and I wanted to, and I felt like if by helping entrepreneurs, it was like helping them with their babies, but professional babies, right? So we tie that into the analogy you just created, which is like when you're an entrepreneur and you're looking for other entrepreneurs out there that can support you, or if you want to do this yourself, whatever, like Yeah, and you create a baby together. Like you need to make sure that you've got a very strong partnership that's going to be able to work off each other and create something better than 1 + 1 = 2, right? And so I love that analogy, and it ties into my baby analogy. I'm going to use that next time.
Is there something you need extra, or you're good if it's a tech baby?
No, and this is a good question. Something you need to consider is like, what is the dynamic of the team? So to your question, like how if you're someone that's more of like a gifted people person, then you're looking for that technical guy that's going to be able to actually hammer out stuff.
Yeah.
There's a ton of technical people that don't want to deal with people, right?
Yeah.
And they're looking for those people that are going to help them engage, that can go sell, that can go fundraise, all that kind of stuff. And so when you're looking at a tech investment or a tech innovation, or if you're an entrepreneur looking to start a tech company, again, there's a lot of introspection that needs to happen, and being honest with yourself is like, what are you good at? What do you suck at? And finding people that are good at what you suck at. And so for me, again, it was like, I can't code. I can do math. I'm analytical, and I can talk to people, but I'm not creative. And so finding that dynamic, people that can code and people that can be creative, was critical for me to be able to really find myself in the entrepreneurial space.
And I think what we need to tell our listeners is that continue to be curious about everything, and nothing really is a failure, right? Like if you went all in, and maybe it was a failed startup or a failed company or a job with a sucky boss or something, there's something that you're going to learn. We hear that story often, that like, man, I never thought that these dots would connect, but like later on in life I realized if it wasn't for this thing that was at the time seemed completely oblivious or like not connected at all to what I'm doing now, if it wasn't for that experience, it would, this is like truly helping me over here. So that's really cool for that. And pues entonces para los latinos, lo que estén haciendo ahorita no es un desperdicio, no están gastando el tiempo, pero échenle ganas a lo que están haciendo para aprovechar, y ya que piensen que absorbieron todo de esa experiencia, muévanse hacia la próxima. Yo creo lo peor es de que estén en un lugar y ya no estén aprendiendo nada nuevo.
Amén.
Ok, esto estaba delicioso. Gracias por la sugerencia de el chicharrón. No, perdón. Chinchulín. No, iba a decir de las carnitas argentinas, que that's what it is, y te tengo que llevar todavía. Pero este lugar tiene algo especial. Tienen un mercadito aquí, y pues quiero ver qué dulces te gustaban a ti.
Dale, vamos.
Vamos a probarlos.
Imagino que vos te criaste con dulces también.
Oh, de los dulces, aunque se me hace chistoso que para mí es normal, pero mucha gente de Latinoamérica dice, ¿a poco le ponen chile hasta los dulces? No, porque casi todos los dulces mexicanos son picosos.
Locura, eso es una locura. ¿Qué dicen? Dicen que los mexicanos le ponen chile a todo y los argentinos le ponen dulce de leche a todo.
A dulce de leche, ok. Entonces, de aquí, si tu papá te dijo, nomás puedes escoger uno, ¿cuál escoges?
Bueno, mira, más gracioso que eso, en Argentina, por la inflación, muchas veces, en vez de darte de vuelta monedas, sí, o pocos pesos, te daban de vuelta golosinas, le decimos otra vez, caramelos.
Sí, golosinas.
Entonces las titas, estas eran impresionantes, las titas y los bonobón. Los bonobón también son muy buenos.
Bueno, ya pedimos permiso para abrirlos. Entonces,
bueno, vamos a probar.
Hay que abrirlos.
Bueno. ¡Qué lujo! ¡Qué lindo! Eso también. Los conitos. Olvídate. Pobre, vamos.
Ok, all right. Entonces, ahorita estamos probando una tita. Y, I don't know, this looks like the wrapper Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, but I have a feeling it's not going to be that.
It's not. And it's funny you say that right in front of mantecol. Okay. Mantecol. So in Argentina, there's not really peanut butter. This is the closest thing you get. And so my dad has a story when he came here to the U.S. for the first time.
Yeah, I'll keep the first part. You cut off the.
Oh.
So it's like a cookie kind of thing.
Yeah. My dad thought peanut butter was dulce de leche. And so he got a peanut butter and jelly, and he was like, "Oh, this is going to be so great." So, I never ate peanut butter again.
Dude, why is it crunchy?
Yeah. We love it. Mm-hmm. And mantecol is like the closest thing Argentines have to peanut butter.
Okay. All right. So that has a similar color. Is it the same brand or no?
No.
Okay.
Bonobon. So Bonobon is also a major brand in Argentina. Similar. I think that we're gonna have a harder time sharing this one. Okay. So you just try it.
Yeah. Grab
because I've had hundreds, if not thousands, of Bonobon. Yeah.
We'll just grab the...
Go for it. Yeah, all at once.
All of it?
Just, yeah.
Well, I want to see the middle of it.
Oh, okay. You have more patience and self-control than I did as a kid.
We have something that tastes like this in Mexico.
What's it called?
It's like a little wafer. We have these little wafer cookies that look like this.
Yeah.
My producer wants to try it.
There you go. The last one we have to try.
Keep the wrapper because we're estamos haciendo.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, they're gonna. Yeah, fine. Los conitos de dulce leche.
Okay.
So, my wife, speaking of entrepreneurship and marriages, when I would go to Argentina, if I didn't come home with conitos de dulce leche, she would say, "Go back to Argentina." Yeah. So this is also a little bit harder to share.
And then you grab the white one. There's a blue one.
There's a blue one. This is dark chocolate or milk chocolate. Yeah. This is white chocolate. Okay. So go for it and let your producer have the rest because she deserves it.
Ya que lo tentó y todo.
Es puro dulce leche y chocolate. Bueno, si lo lindo de este lugar, Pampa Grill, es que tiene muchos productos de Argentina también. Entonces, bueno, un té que tomamos en Argentina y se toma mucho también en Uruguay, en Brasil, se llama mate, yerba mate. Entonces acá ves.
Ese es el del vasito con el popote de fierro y todo.
Tal cual, que tiene toda una cultura también, tiene una como si fuera una religión.
¿Cuál es este?
Entonces es la Merced. Bueno, este es interesante, mira, porque el mate es un té, un té caliente. Pero durante los veranos a veces hacen un mate con naranja y les llama tereré.
¿Y esta es la hoja de la naranja?
No, le meten un poco de naranja como para darle un gustito más liviano.
Ok, entonces ¿qué es ¿ese es el nombre de la hoja?
Es la hierba. Se crece, es mate. Okay. En portugués se llama cimarrón.
Ok. Sí, esto en México no usamos este.
No. Y bueno, obviamente el dulce leche, crítico para todos los argentinos.
Okay. So, ¿compras y en la casa con una cuchara nomás o cómo?
Por supuesto. O en una banana. Cuando éramos chicos le poníamos la banana directamente. O sea,
ok. So, dulce leche. Como la gente, los americanos usan Nutella, kind of.
Puede ser, sí.
You shouldn't just like dip into it, but like, you can.
But you do. Yeah. Sometimes we would crush walnuts, and you would take a scoop and then like put walnuts, and then super good.
Yeah. Okay. So, entonces en Argentina hay mucha vaca también. Pues sí, pues mucha carne, entonces hay mucho lácteo. That makes sense now.
El argentino come mucha carne roja y mucho carbohidrato, muchos dulces, mucha pasta. Sí. It's like the worst diet you could possibly imagine in the U.S., but everyone's skinny. So it's
that's not the case in Mexico. Yeah.
These were a lot of fun growing up. This is what you would have with tea at tea time.
Okay.
And so in Argentina, something that's culturally different is you eat dinner very late. You eat dinner at like 9, 10 p.m. Okay. And so you have tea at like 5, 6. And so the tea has to be a little bit substantive to get to to the rest of the day. And so these were what we would eat a lot as kids.
Okay.
And then the final thing I'll point out is this. Batata, which looks disgusting, but
like a flan?
Es como un flan pero más dulce.
Okay.
Y se come con queso, como un postre. Entonces lo cortas así como lo tiene cortado ahí, en fajas, lo comes con un quesito, muy rico.
Interesting. Is breakfast, lunch, dinner, or just dessert?
No. Dessert. I guess it's a good question because Argentines will eat like medialunas, croissants with dulce leche for breakfast. Gotcha. So we eat a lot of sweets, but that's mostly for dessert after un asado or after dinner.
Bueno, Alex, muchísimas gracias por estar con nosotros hoy. This was a really fun episode. I learned a lot about Argentina that I didn't know before, and about tech, and about VC, and about funding and startups. So thank you so much. We're going to go try some yerba mate. You guys don't get to see that part, but thank you so much. Alex, unas palabras últimas para los latinos en tech.
No, mira, la verdad hay que tener mucho corazón, hay que tener mucho coraje y hay que tener mucha garra. Que la vida del innovador es difícil, pero hay mucha gente como José, como Michelle, como varios innovadores que te quieren ayudar. Así que vamos latinos, vamos argentinos.
Y vamos yerba mate.